Hey, how you doing, everybody? This is John, and welcome to John's Longbox. It's clobbering time, and that means it's time we take two characters and pit them against each other in a battle of basically popularity and whatever. And we got Marcus here. And just so everybody knows,
if you don't mind,
it's an open invite. Anybody can pop in. As I choke to death on live camera. So tonight we're talking about the Punisher. What's that?
As you choke to death. We need the word death.
We're talking about the Punisher versus Judge Dredd. But of course, before we do that, I have to show my current Indiegogo, not Instagram.
I'm not on Instagram.
I'm on Instagram, but that is John's Longbox under my real name, and I think it's been months since I even posted anything.
My wife's on Instagram. Well, they have all that, but she doesn't even check it that much either. The only one that I check is the X. I mean, that's worked out for what I wanted,
I was told yesterday or 2 days ago by Tommy from World of War Comics that Instagram is good to get to talk to comic book professionals.
The other artists in our spectrum of artists do like Instagram. The bigger ones that are selling artwork, like the Aaron LaPrestis, they'll do that on Instagram. Facebook is worthless.
Oh, Facebook, I'm talking to a lot of the old timers.
Yeah, so it's good. I mean, X has worked, has so far has done what but I behave myself on X. So
this is my Indiegogo. This is my third and final campaign for my comic book Heroic Tales #1. We are hard at work at issue #2. I was just talking to Renzo yesterday.
Hey, Renzo.
I was just talking to Oscar
should come on
today about my side project, Eddie is Doomed. That's moving along too. So,
doomed.
So
I feel doomed.
Yeah, we're all doomed. So I think I want to show this off because I need to get more eyeballs on my Indiegogo. But just check out this wonderful trailer. I tell you what, man. If I wasn't the guy making the comic, I would back it just from that trailer. I love that trailer.
Like trailer. I get tired of the trailers, but that's a really good one.
Yeah, I have to give a shout out. Kyle Prometheus, who might show up in the chat.
That's so nice of me. Well,
he just made that for me. I didn't ask him. I didn't pester him. And when I told him, what do you want for it?
Most everybody's rooting for you,
Thanks. This is the Renzo cover. This is, cover A. This is the back cover. And this is the Mike Gustovich cover. I'm just going on for this one because I love all the covers.
You know what? I was thinking about all the things that Tonic Mole was saying and what he was saying about repackaging the comics. And this is what the bigger guys do it all the time. Like currently EVS is is doing a cover for another version of his earlier stories, Cyberpunk, the ones you like, the ones from the 90s, because it's sold out. Well, he's going to put a new cover on it.
Those 90 ones are impossible. So why not?
If you get enough covers, because you're going to have 2 covers on the next one, no matter what, because they're flip books. Right. You could eventually put out a book. You already have the artwork done of just your covers.
Yeah.
It's like the Billy Tucci does that a lot. He's always repackaging shit.
You're not wrong. I have a lot of ideas in the future.
mean, you have to get it
I,
started.
I'm
but
real happy with what I do with my first campaign, Hero Tales. On Fund My Comic, I did so good. And then
Well,
Kickstarter, I did okay.
I was
Indiegogo, I'm struggling. But
I was thinking about. Well, I feel like the Fund My Comic people, Indiegogo people,
they
are the
they
similar
overlap,
people. Like
right?
the covers is a draw, but I think they're like the same people. So you're not.
Right. Well, I'm not
I
going to
think the
split this
opposite
up.
is you know,
I'm not
it's
going to split this
Kickstarter
up
is the one.
anymore. Like,
I
when I
might do
launch,
another Kickstarter.
I'm putting everything on one campaign. You know what I mean? Because
I don't know what to
I
think about.
realize now that had I launched all 4 covers on Fund My Comic, people probably would have bought all 4 covers. You know, so I think I kind of harmed myself. But
Well,
they'll
I
be
still.
available. They'll be available as when I do issue 2. Issue 2, I think, is going to be the make or break. You know what I mean?
Oh
So
yeah.
if issue 2 does well, I got a whole bunch of other stuff that I'd like to do. And I might have art for a guy named Kelligrew. If
Oh, thanks.
that
That
guy.
would be nice.
Jeez. But
What kind of art? I am willing to try drawing a horse.
don't get me started. So let's address the chat before we go. But let me finish my thought here. This is Mike Gustovich. I freaking love this cover.
I remember
I love all my covers, but man, I just feel like
I like this one. I'm gonna. I haven't. I don't.
this cover is underperforming, and I want to.
But we're in Biden's America. It's hard. I haven't backed anything in a while, and I have a list of stuff I want to back, but I can't. I can't do it. I can't say I'm going to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe after November things will be looking up. Maybe not. We'll see.
Okay, we'll see. So we got Woodrow in the chat. Hail the chat. This should be a good one. Thank you, Woodrow. How's it go? And guys, before we even start with it's clobbering time, keep in mind, I a lot of people reached out and sent me links of good Judge Dredd comics to buy, but just today the insurance company said I should probably get paid Monday. So I haven't been paid in 3 months. So I did not buy any comics. I still only read 4 Judge Dredd comics. So you guys have to be the champion for Judge Dredd. So, I know the Punisher pretty well. So, unless you guys jump in, Punisher's winning. I'm telling you right now. All right. Evening, everyone. Looking forward to this matchup all week. Hey, Ben Savo, how you doing? Good to see new names, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming in. I love this concept of show. This is Enow Desert King. Edward was just with me earlier today. We were talking about crowdfunding 101, which a lot of people seem to like. We're going to do crowdfunding 102 next Friday because we barely scratched the surface. Edward is a super talented guy who is dipping his toes into crowdfunding, and I thought this would be a fun thing to, not that I'm an expert. I'm talking about my mistakes right already, but we're learning together, and I'm inviting other accomplished people to come in and help Edward and myself out because Edward's talented, man. That guy's so talented. And then I'll swap this out. So I also have.
It did help that my 3-hour drive. Take a good chunk of my 3-hour drive.
That's we were talking about that. How people don't really have time for long.
It's like Comicsgate Radio,
So if like I said, I did pretty good on Fund My Comic. I can't complain one bit. Again, we got the Renzo cover. We got the Pat Broderick cover. The Pat Broderick cover has only been on Fund My Comic. I wanted to do something nice because Luke Stone of Fund My Comic has been very nice to me. He's above and beyond what a crowdfunding platform should do to help me out.
The Mike Gustovich cover is almost the Pat Broderick cover 1 minute later.
I'm sorry?
I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry, but the Pat Broderick cover, the Mike Gustovich cover is almost a Pat Broderick cover like a couple of minutes later.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that the same villain? I know it's like
he's
about
they're all the same villain. All 3 covers are the same villain, same concept. Because I when it comes to covers, like me and Renzo were talking, we want the cover to be representative of what's going on in the comic. But the Michael T. Gilbert one isn't really because he wanted it to be more of like a Silver Age. So I think people let me show the cover before I talk about it. So this is Pat Broderick. This is representative of the comic itself. This is the back cover. This is the Michael T. Gilbert cover. He wanted it to be more humorous, more whimsical. and if you know anything about Michael T. Gilbert, that's him.
I do.
Universe is whimsical. He does a comic called Mr. Monster. That's tongue firmly planted in truth, where there's no continuity. It's just whatever he feels like doing that particular issue. You know, every issue, Doc Stern, Mr. Monster has a different origin. So he kind of wanted to make an homage.
I remember that.
And he likes he's like, oh, big robotic insects, picnic. You know, so I mean, the patriarch does have a kid. I'm sure he goes on patriarchs. He goes on picnics with his family, but this scene is not in the comic. I want to make but Mike Gustovich and Pat Broderick and Renzo, like, for the most part, I want the comic book to be represented, the cover to be representative of the cover.
It's a variant cover.
But this, I think people understand the look and the feel that I was going for in this one. But I love this cover. This is my wife's favorite. You know, I'm talking to Bill. Bill is going to be done with the lettering pretty soon. I have the coins right here in my hand, the pint glass, and the stretch goal cards. We unlocked 4 of the 6 cards, but there's also a 7th card. And so everybody, if you just back one physical comic, you're going to get the 4 cards, hopefully more by the time we're done. As I drop stuff, you're going to get stickers, and whatever's left over will be on sale, because I got 7 cards, so I'll sell like packs of 7 cards or whatever for the second campaign. The second campaign, I might even do the t-shirts. I found a place that'll do the t-shirts that I want.
Good.
But that'll be super limited.
That patriarch, that makes a really good t-shirt.
Yeah, doesn't it?
The logo makes a great t-shirt. White or purple.
I went to one place by me because I try to do everything local if I can.
Yeah, well, everything in New York.
I was so enthusiastic about it, but then I paid up. I was like, "Here's the money up front," as I got cat hair in my mouth, and then when they were showing me the proof, it was totally different than what I want. I was like, "I thought I was clear." Oh, we can't do what you want, so they gave me the money back. Whatever. They were kind of nasty too. I'm like, "Why you get nasty?" Yeah, But anyway. Again, I'm scrolling down the chat. We got an invite, especially if you're a Judge Dredd guy. Come on in. Somebody's got it. Oh, we got Tyson over here. You're calling for Judge Dredd. You come on in. Come on in. The water's fine. This is the ass-kickingest episode ever. Expect the bloody nose by the. Well, yeah, I'm gonna punch Marcus. Marcus, just don't choke me and we're cool.
Oh, I've been where you were. It's so frustrating.
RRTNZ from the spellcaster from New Zealand. Hail John and Marcus putting in an early vote for Dredd. Dredd believes in the law. Punisher believes in justice. That's a good point. We'll talk about that. Law trumps because justice doesn't exist. That's a philosophical point for people smarter than me. Maybe we'll get RJ in here to discuss that. Can't join you as I'm at the cinema. What are you seeing? And thank you for the super chat. Thank you. And we got Woodrow who's backing up LaFrance. A man who goes outside the law versus the law personified. As much as I love the Punisher, Dredd takes this hands down. He's got advanced weaponry, lawgiver, and a suit genetically enhanced. See, I don't know that. Guys, you got to come in.
He does not have power. He doesn't really have powers.
All on Fund My Comic. I want to support Luke. Yeah. And just so you know, going forward, Fund My Comic is my home. I might do like a secondary campaign on Kickstarter, but everything Fund My Comic.
But to me, the key to Fund My Comic, if everything is equal, and you're not the big guys who use it IGG all the time. We're used to going to them 1,000 people, they have 1,000 backers, and they go to Indiegogo like your boys Act, whatever. But if it's all equal, if you're starting out, Fund My Comic's the way to go because you can call Luke Stone and get help.
And I have.
And you need help. Even the big guys are like, they don't know what to do with Indiegogo.
I messed up 3 times. And 3 times I called Luke, and 3 times, he fixed it while having breakfast. And once we spent all day Saturday. I messed up the strike payments. And he was on the phone with Stripe.
It's so important.
You can't get that with Indiegogo. You can't get with
no, they don't even have any people working there.
Right. I'm going to get a Cylon by your command. Dredd, future weaponry, takes an advantage, carries advanced medical devices that can heal wounds. Both are about equal combat training, but maybe see,
Woodrow should
guys,
come
somebody's
in,
got to come in.
and then I
It
don't have to
honestly
talk.
comes down to who is hunting who. That's a good point. I do like that Gilbert one. Yeah, I love all three of them. They're my babies. I love them all. I love them all. And I think we're down. We made it to the bottom. I've seen some old Batman and Superman covers that were crazy. Didn't know if it was. Yeah, it's reminiscent of a Superboy cover. That
I think it's. I can look it up.
Yeah. So okay. So I did my commercial for my comics. I went down the chat. I thanked RRTNZ for the super chat. Thank you. By the way, it's $10 New Zealand money. Sounds like a lot, but it's Hobbit money. And basically, what happens is I get mailed a box of sausages at the end of the month. You know?
Hey, you can mix that with some eggs.
Yeah, joke's on you. I love sausages, and now that's gonna be put on Comicsgate drama.
That's right.
So let's start this, Marcus.
So
This
I guess
is
so.
tough.
I've read Judge Dredd.
I was gonna say you have to take Judge Dredd because I don't know.
So Judge Dredd is basically it was created. It debuted in 1977. It was created by John Wagner and Carlos Esquerza, Mexican artist who's done many British comics, but he didn't get to draw the first episode because either he left or they kicked him out. Nobody's sure. And Mike McMahon drew it, but he designed the helmet, all the epaulets, the huge costume, the motorbike.
Who's he?
They decided that it's almost a political comic. It's a parody of America, and some English stuff too. So he is the law. He's a street judge, they call him, and he's the law judge, jury, and executioner. He makes the decisions. Although he doesn't execute as many people as you might think, but people do die. But if you do a jaywalking, you're going to be in jail for a couple of years. They don't fool around. And they live there's Mega City 1 on the East Coast and Mega City 2 on the West Coast, the nuclear war. On the middle is the cursed earth. And then it goes from New York to about Charlotte. And they just live in these apartment buildings that house 50,000 people. So it's like it's most miserable. We're heading that way, the world's heading that way.
Yeah.
And I am the law. That's his thing. I am the law. He's never smiles. Nobody sees his face.
As a person who doesn't know, is what he did is what he does necessary? He roams the cursed earth?
They had a president at one time, but he was so corrupt they decided that the judges run the mega cities.
So now, how does the common person deal to the judges? Are they glad that they're there, or are they terrified of them?
They're a mix. You're terrified of the police when you're driving and the police come up behind you, and what did I do wrong? There's some light out. It's the same feeling, probably worse because whatever you do, you're punished way worse. You're not just going to get a ticket. You're going to be punished as much as they can. Not even much as they can. They'll put you right to hard labor. If you're really bad, they'll put you in suspended animation.
Now, is it a crime-ridden society where they need harsh judges?
Not anymore.
Oh.
Well, there's 50,000 people in each building of Mega City 1, so there's always something going on.
Yeah, there's always going to be a bad apple.
And there's a lot.
The reason why I'm asking is because, I don't know, because people always told me, oh, you don't get it. Judge Dredd is the bad guy in the story.
Well, because he's the fascist. He's the ultimate fascist cop.
Yeah, he's the ultimate fascist.
If you read Captain
fascist, but in a post-apocalyptic society, which I didn't even know that Judge Dredd was set. Maybe they're recapturing society and they need to.
It's like 1,000 years in the future, and this is what's left of American society. So in Marvel Comics, do you remember at the end of Captain America before they canceled him and brought in Mark Waid and Ron Garney, and they had AmeriCop in those things?
No.
The big armored characters that they had in Marvel, those are it's the ultimate fascist cop.
Okay. Is
Judge Dredd. So, fascist pig, they would say in this 1972. So that's they've had stories using Judge Dredd type characters. And do you remember that character in Thor where he fought the one he rode around on a flying motorcycle with a big
Yeah, that was
helmet
Walt
on.
Simonson doing a Judge Dredd homage.
That's Walt Simonson doing a Judge Dredd.
Do you
Yeah.
remember the name of that character?
I don't remember. I don't off the top of my head. I don't remember. Right. So Mark Gruenwald used fascist army and fascist cops at one point. They're usually analogous to Judge Dredd. So it's a fascist society. Everybody, all the people just trudge their way to work, and they trudge their way back to work. And the art, even with Brian Boland's beautiful art, just the art comic just looks grimy and dirty. Nobody lives in a really super nice place. I mean, there's the elites, but you don't see them very often.
I heard
Judge
that
Dredd does go take on Judge Death and all sorts of other. They had him go through the cursed earth and fight the mutants or mutates. He doesn't always go. It's not every issue that he's going after street crime. In fact, pretty rarely. And he has no powers, strength, flight. He has a gun that shoots 6 different bullets. He has laser rifles on his bike. You never see his face. They've never seen his face. That's a trope. He has a permanent scowl. Like, you've never seen him smile either. And I guess he's kind of like the Punisher if the Punisher was a police officer. But I think he kills less than the Punisher, oddly enough.
Really?
But he's a kind of a clone. His father, he had two. Rico, his brother, they were twins, and they were cloned from his father. And Rico got corrupted. The Drudges can be very corrupt. What sets Joe, his name is Joseph Drudge, separate from the other judges is that society is very corruptible, and the police, the judges are very corruptible. And there's a question whether they should have the judge system. His father created the judge system and regretted it upon his death. But he's also fought his father's clone. So this is in the future. So they've got all sorts of wacky stuff going. And it's British, so all sorts of wacky stuff goes on. And he's uncorruptible. Joe Dredd is the uncorruptible guy. He had to kill his own brother because his brother was corrupt. So he'll be judge and jury on other judges.
But so that is he follows the law to the letter.
He follows I am the law. That's it. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, but when he says I am the law, like, to me, who's never read the comics, does that mean like he just decides, or is there a code that he follows?
No, he decides. The powers in the chief.
So then, how could you be a corrupt judge then if there's no law?
Well, they can take
isn't
it's just like everything else. They could take kickbacks and money and
but then that's the law, right? If you're the law and you decide,
well, they break the law.
What?
The corrupt judges break the law.
But what is if there is no law other than what this human decides? Then how could you say that Rico is corrupt if he says I'm the law and my law says I can take?
Well, because Joe Dredd is the best judge they had. Let's see if anybody wants to back me up.
Is there a system of government in Mega City 1 that made like a constitution or
they got rid of this? They got rid of the city government. They got rid of the government for the judges to run things.
So, but like that's like my philosophical disconnect is so he just decides that jaywalking is illegal, but unless he decides it.
Well, I did not see, in the comics, a book of laws that he opens up and reads the law, but I imagine there would be some, yes. There's something
he follows what he believes the law should be. He's right. But I like I said, so how?
Well, it's the ultimate fascist. It's what
right. So you
got to think about it in comic book terms, where yes, there's going to be a disconnect. It doesn't completely make sense as a form of government now.
Because if somebody was to be like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to steal that thing. Here's $50. That's my fine. And then Judge Dredd goes, okay, $50 is the fine appropriate. How is that corrupt if he is the law?
I'd have to go back. I don't remember all the details of it. They just,
right. So I'm just trying to make sense.
You're not wrong, but right. I couldn't say. Corrupt is really bad in these megalopolises. I mean, it's not. It's like maybe it's like P. Diddy. I don't know.
Now well, I don't want to get to the Punisher yet, so I'm just asking. So
he's been continually in print since 1977 in 2000 AD and in Judge Dredd magazine, and he came here in like 1983 in Eagle, and then he was published in Eagle Comics, and then they spun it off, and IDW. You know, we went through everybody,
right?
Published him. You know how it goes here; it jumps from place to place, and he's the perfect Simon Bisley type of character.
Yeah,
all the big rough and tumble. Artists are taking a shot. John Byrne has a really nice Judge Dredd story. He drew one in the Judge Files, and it's a pretty harsh comic. There's not a lot of romance. There's not a lot of like side story. It's just Judge Dredd. I mean, it is what it is, right? And it gets crazier and crazier. They send him in to regenerate. Like this is, you can get, the rich people get like their body parts replaced when they go bad and stuff. And the judges, like he's almost died a couple of times. He'll go in to regenerate and he'll come back. He'll come back in his youth. They'll send him there because they don't want to lose him. He'll be like literally supposed to be 82 years old, and then they'll put him in regenerative.
That's such an English thing, regeneration, like, huh? Doctor Who,
like their own Lazarus pit, and he'll come back. And one time he did the outside, and he just didn't do his his heart or anything. So I don't know how that works.
You said they want him. Who is they that want him? Is there like a corrupt elite? Is it the people? Is there some sort of government?
If I remember right, there is a corrupt elite. It doesn't work into every story, but there is a corrupt elite. How could there not be?
Right. Yeah, I know. You're talking to me. I guarantee if you read Heroic Tales, you'll be like, wow, every politician's bad. Have you met me? So why would the corrupt elite want this incorruptible judge?
Well, they're corrupt.
And I'm not putting you on the spot, Mark, because I'm just asking because I don't know.
If I remember right, and I'm trying to remember it, I should try to read up on him, but it doesn't have everything. He does eventually answer to a tribunal. Somebody's making a decision to keep him alive and everything. There is a tribunal of other judges above Judge Dredd. He's just the best judge. But down on the street, he's the one who makes all the decisions. I think that's. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I'm trying to remember that.
I'm just. So okay, so I think I got a pretty good understanding of the character. Pretty much what I thought already. You know, like I said, I only read 4.
I'm semi-surprised somebody didn't have something like similar in your Village of Vigilantes game after all these years, like a real tough.
Well, I don't think any of us read Judge Dredd. You know, my circle of friends. It's just
Well, why I read Judge Dredd is because the comic Heroes World opened in the Galleria Mall. My dad got made friends with the owner, not the owner, the manager. And we were picking up comics. The comics came out earlier, so I was letting all my subscriptions lapse, so I get the comics when they come out. And then I started going, and I started picking up comics. Oh, Judge Dredd, I'll get that. Or Pacific, it's only $1.50. Pacific Comics, Eclipse Comics, First Comics. Yeah, I wasn't too picky after a while.
So, are there any? Tell me, anybody in the chat or Marcus, like what is classic Judge Dredd story? Like, whenever you ask me about the X-Men, I go right to the Hellfire Club or Death of Phoenix. You know what I mean?
When he went across the cursed earth to deliver vaccine to Mega City 2 in California.
What's the name of that?
Fought all the mutants on the way. That's a pretty big story. It does not. Judge Dredd doesn't really have the emotional impact of like the X-Men story that you would talk to about.
And does he have any memorial?
Judge Anderson, Judge Death stories are big time stories because that's a true horror character where the dead judges come back as ghosts, like drawn by Brian Boland, and that they believe that all life is against the law, so they want to kill everybody.
Oh wow!
Judge Anderson, they corrupt Judge Anderson. They take her over. She's the PSYOP judge because they have a PSYOPs course, which he has there's semi-relationships, but he really doesn't have any relationship with anybody. And all the regular goofy thing. They had a robot that couldn't say R, so he was a wobot. Stuff like that. I mean, all sorts of silly stuff.
Does
If
he
you
have
read
any
British
recurring
comics,
villains?
excuse me.
Does he have any
I think
recurring
Judge
villains?
Death is his biggest villain.
Oh, Judge Death is a villain. Okay, I didn't know that.
Judge Death is a villain. They bring him back a lot. Now, I don't know what Judge Dredd is like in this woke version, like current comics. How they do that is a question I have.
He beats you up if you don't believe that trans women are women. Yeah.
You're playing in that soccer game. Out.
Judge Death is his Joker.
Right,
Okay.
Mike is right. That's
I
right.
didn't know. I just thought they were all judges, so they were all on the same team.
No, Judge Death. There's a whole group of Judge Death. And you just get it. It was a terrific comic. They're all short stories. There's not that many of them that are 32 pages long, 20 pages. Most of them are 10 pages because don't forget, this comes out weekly in Britain. So it's shorter.
Continuous?
Shorter bite to the apple.
Like the 10 pages done, 10 pages done, 10 pages done.
And that's why you get all these different artists. You know, Mike McMahon writing, Ron Wagner. These are the ones I remember. Brian Boland. How did Brian Boland do it? Well, he didn't do every story. He's working on this story. Other guys
can't, man. He'd probably do 1 10-page a year.
Almost all of them are black. They're all black and white. They get colored for reprint, and mostly black and white. And he's still being published today.
All right. Anybody in the chat want to recommend me a good Judge Dredd to read? Like, is there a compilation? The Single Eagle?
Yeah, they would know better than me. I mean, I'd have to look at anybody
because I do want to read. It's just that this is just not a good.
I think you might enjoy it in a goofy way. You might enjoy it.
Yeah, I think I like it. I like all those writers that you mentioned, and forget all those artists.
Alan Moore, as far as I know, didn't do a Judge. I mean, they have Return. They have Return of the King, The Devil You Know. It's all sorts of things. Let me see if there's anything.
I know that Chuck Dixon talks highly of it, and Chuck.
Yeah, it's Chuck like a lot.
You got to get the Alan Grant ones.
Well, Alan Grant was one of the main writers. Wow,
they got big old fat. Yeah, if you have a recommendation, put it in the regular, comment section, not the chat, the comment, so it'll be there because it's hard to look stuff up in the chat. You know what I mean? So like the regular comments, and I'll definitely find it.
I just remembered this one. Mean Machine Angel, a psychopath from Cursed Earth of around Texas, cybernetic arm and head, preferred to kill people by headbutting them. I mean, this stuff is nuts. It's just British,
Well, the British have a different way of looking at things than the Americans, definitely, without a doubt.
Well, I love
the whole British comic book invasion.
They're so good at Judge Dredd, and they're not always great at superheroes, although DC likes to have them on the superheroes, because they don't quite understand the American hero, John Wayne hero that we all want our heroes to be.
Right.
They don't quite understand it.
Superheroes are, I think, an outgrowth of the cowboy, the lone, guy, the super individual who ain't going to take it, and he's going to go out and not only right or wrong, but help everybody. I don't know. Maybe that's just an American thing, but they don't seem to have that any other, and that's why it's bizarre when they got these British writers that come to America and do it so well.
He calls his motorcycle the Law Master.
That's the name of his motorcycle.
His son is the Lawgiver.
And does he have any? Does he have any reoccurring side characters? Like, does he have a Jimmy Olsen or Lois Lane?
Yeah, they have a few. They're not. Judge Anderson is in a lot of them. Judge Hershey, new Judge Hershey for 40
years.
Does he have the
squirts? A Hershey squirts? Okay.
Well, she was a woman. They have a couple of women judges, and he had a couple of proteges. Judge Beanie, you can imagine.
Mike's Total Dragon Channel says that Garth Ennis wrote an incredible cowboy story with Jesse Cuss. I would like to say yes, I 100% agree. My favorite thing that Garth Ennis wrote is Hitman. My second favorite thing is Preacher. And I will say that the TV show of Preacher totally missed the point of Preacher, and it made it. Again, I'm not a particularly religious person, but I got offended by just how disrespectful the Preacher TV show was to Christianity. And all I could think of, and I am a conspiracy guy, but like all the producers like Seth Rogen, all these Jewish guys, they made a show that made fun of Christianity. Could you just imagine if a whole bunch of Christians made a show making fun of Judaism, how fast that would be taken
or
off?
Muslim, Islam,
or Muslim. But and then I'll also say that Garth Ennis is Irish, and the Irish understand America. The Irish,
I think that's true.
My grandmother used to say, and my father used to say, you want to get a patriotic America, grab an Irishman. You know, the Irish, for whatever reason, they understand America. So yeah, there you go. I would love to talk to Garth Ennis.
I forgot to say what the names of these buildings were. They were like the Elizabeth Taylor block, the Ronald Reagan block, Sylvia Plath block.
You don't want to live in the
Sylvia Plath. They named where they lived, the Rowdy Yates block. I mean, it's out of date. Some of it be out of date, but so that's what they used to name it after different celebrities, where the riffraff lived.
Seth Rogen is the kiss of death these days. If I see
he's a bad guy.
And at one point, I thought he was like a funny comedy actor. You know what I mean?
He was funny.
You know, like Knocked Up. He was just a goofy, lovable guy. I really liked him in Funny People. That's that Adam Sandler movie that wasn't supposed to be funny, coincident. But yeah, it was right around Green Hornet. You're right, Lucas Garrett. And good to see you. It's good to see a new name. Something about Green Hornet. That was like, what's going on? He totally missed the point of Green Hornet. I think I read it was like the Wild West for a lot of its history. Yeah. So that Judge Dredd. So all right, I think I'll take Punisher now. So those of you, I'm sure everybody knows the Punisher who's watching this channel, but the Punisher is Frank Castle. Frank Castle was a Vietnam sergeant, and he was, so many stories came out, especially by Garth Ennis. Full disclosure, I hated the Punisher until Garth Ennis wrote him. I just did not like the idea of a superhero that kills. I didn't, I didn't read the Mike Baron comics when they came out. I didn't read the Chuck Dixon Punisher.
Well, he wasn't originally a superhero though.
Right. I got his secondary appearances, but I didn't get Punisher comics. I just didn't like the character. I got that 4-issue series by Mike Zeck, but I just didn't like the Punisher. And then I was such a Garth Ennis fan that I loved what he did with the Punisher. Then I went back and got all that stuff. So there's my full disclosure of the character. But apparently he was I was about to say Vietnamese. He wasn't Vietnamese. He was a Vietnam sergeant in the Vietnam War. And they made it so that Garth Ennis is writing these wonderful war stories featuring Frank in Vietnam, that he was like famous for. He would go out and do a lot of the fighting, and he had like the lowest casualties of all of these. I don't know the correct word. I'm not a military guy. Platoons, troops, squads, and he was beloved by his men. Then he comes home and he's with his wife, Maria, and his kids. They go to Central Park, and the mob is assassinating somebody else, and the stray bullets take out his family. Tragic. To me, that's one of the best origins up there with Spider-Man origin, as far as like a tragic origin. And then he goes berserkowitz, puts on a costume, starts killing and punishing people. Now this kind of different, because when he originally came out, he was a mercenary for hire using electronic.
He was Spider-Man 129.
Yeah. So they fine-tuned him and made him for the better. So there he is. So he's a regular guy. There's something wrong with his head that he's just, because he got the people that killed his family, but he ain't stopping, because I guess in for a penny, in for a pound, right?
His popularity was that Mike Zeck and Stephen Grant series, and that exploded Punisher onto the scene. He was a great guest star. Spider-Man would make him use rubber bullets, and then they would call him a nut. And it was really it was Denny O'Neil in that Daredevil where he got arrested and they put him in jail, and he was like, good, there's a lot of criminals in jail. I'm going to go kill them all. Where you realize he was never as psychotic as that until Denny O'Neil doesn't get credit for it, but he wrote that annual with Spider-Man and the Punisher. There was a couple annuals in a row that Denny O'Neil wrote and Frank Miller drew.
I want to talk about this.
They took that
Oh.
that psychotic thing and they ran with it.
Lucas says that they based him on Don Pendleton's Mac Bowl and the execution. 100%. That was something that I didn't know until Chuck Dixon talked about it. Every Wednesday, Chuck Dixon does a YouTube thing called Ask Chuck Dixon. I'm a couple of weeks behind on it, but he talked about this Executioner to the point I'm looking for Executioner books. You know, they're little paperback nothings that you could read really quick. They sound awesome. I want to read them. I read the Destroyer, one of the Destroyer books. I want to read the Executioner, but yes, you're absolutely right. I don't think Chuck even makes any bones about it when he was writing with Chuck Dick, the Punisher comic, that it was just the same character in his head.
It's a ripoff, yeah.
I don't like Dan Abbott's Punisher run. It's miniseries. Which one was that? Because the Angel Punisher, let's all agree that was terrible.
Oh, I tried to read that because of the art.
Michael Golden, and Michael Golden, he was editorially mandated to do it. So I'm not going to bust Michael Golden's chops for writing that. The art was excellent. And I will say this. If it wasn't Frank Castle, I would have liked it. But it's not Frank Castle.
I agree.
I kind of like the concept of it, but it's not Frank Castle.
Like I talked to Carl Potts at not last Heroes Con, the Heroes Con before. And he was the editor of the Punisher, like when Chuck did it, and Mike Barron and Jim Lee. He was doing the layouts for it. And you talked to Carl Potts about it, and even though he was editor colorist and he would want to make great comics, but he doesn't seem very comfortable with the Punisher. Like Marvel itself was never really comfortable with the popularity of the Punisher, a hyper masculine, even way back then in 1989. That hyper masculine, super cool character who killed people with guns. They just weren't. And he wanted to make good Punisher comics. So, he made his peace with it. But guys like Chuck and Mike Barron really understood what they were trying to do.
I mean, look, up until Garth Ennis, Welcome Back, Frank, I didn't like the Punisher. And I do say that, like, the Punisher probably would have worked best in that magazine series that they went more for adults, like the Rampaging Hulk, the Deadly Hands.
Probably shouldn't have been in the Marvel Universe, but everybody was in the Marvel Universe then, so they folded everybody in. It didn't matter who you were, so that's how it goes. Barbie's in the Marvel Universe,
right? Like
they didn't have anybody stand alone.
Frank Castle works best as like a taxi driver in Manhattan,
Exactly.
Yeah. And
1977.
And I don't see how Frank Castle could be racking up such a high body count in a world of Daredevils and Spider-Mans and the Fantastic Four. But that's one of the beauties of the Marvel Universe is there's like a niche for everybody. Like does Spider-Man turn a blind eye to, like Spider-Man should be able to get Frank Castle, mop the floor with him, throw him in jail. Does anybody think that's the Punisher could beat Spider-Man?
No.
Maybe if he sniped him from far away.
Spider-Man is they depower. Well, we could go into a Spider-Man thing, how he's been more powerful and less powerful over the years.
Right.
Or they never use his speed, or they forget some of his powers. Because if he used all his powers, he just beat everybody in 35 seconds.
Right.
Unless he's taking on the Fantastic Four and suddenly all four of them can't take him down, right?
Yeah, you see, I'm going to cut Marvel. I'm going to cut them all slack for this. Mainstream comic companies are not comfortable with heroes. Absolutely.
I think that's true.
And I think it's fair. I think it's fair because as much as we as comic book fans have an uncomfortable. We lie to ourselves. Comic books are meant for children, but we're 56-year-old people who still have comics. So you don't want to be an adult who sells literature to kids about a guy who murders people. There is something uncomfortable about the Punisher. Now, to what Lucas said about the wrong comment about the Executioner, nobody has any problem with this because these are novels meant to adults. So you know what I mean? Like if the Punisher was a pulp character or as Chuck Dixon calls it, a men's sweat character. That's a term I haven't heard since the 70s. Chuck Dixon's the only person who still uses that. So part of me,
yeah, he is.
Yeah, part of me understands why current Marvel basically gave the Punisher the 23 Skidoo. polite way to say what they did to the Punisher. I understand it. But there's something primal about Frank Castle. There's something.
It became political. It wasn't always. I didn't when I bought them, and when I was in high school or in college buying the miniseries and the Punisher afterwards in the '90s. They didn't really think it was political, but they designed his skull was small at first, and then John Romita Sr. made it the original big, like the whole chest, and it became the cool thing. As a matter of fact, my friend years ago gave me a T-shirt. This is the Marvel T-shirt they wear at softball, which was the Punisher logo. It was the coolest logo that they had, and people who do that stuff for a living, like snipers and guys in the Marines and the Army, soldiers, love that stuff, and they adopted it. And then police officers adopted it. And as we go on in the political realm of defund of all that, they decided they didn't want these people. They didn't want to glorify this skull. The whole thing is silly. It's hard to explain. So,
like, as far as like military people adopted dude, that's a natural. Like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You get some grunted someplace, with his helmet on, his machine gun. I'm not a military guy, so I'm sure I'm going to get the terms wrong, guys. But then he paints a Punisher skull, dude. I'd do that too. I would do that too. I do have a problem with cops. I don't think cops should be putting the Punisher skull. You know what I mean? That sends a bad message. Cops are supposed to be impartial. They're supposed to follow the law. The Punisher. The whole thing about the Punisher is he disobeys the law. He's a vigilante. So guys, I'm not woke by any means. I'm not progressive by any means, but I do think it's inappropriate for cops.
I could see that point. Sure. Absolutely.
So that's not, but then to disavow their character, their creation, and sabotage them on Marvel, that makes no sense whatsoever. They could have just as easily sidelined them for a couple of years. You know what I mean?
The first time I bought that, I had that comic. I bought that comic, Spider-Man 129. He was not a good-looking guy either. Ross Andrew did not draw him.
No,
he's a handsome cat, and even the whole time he showed up in Spider-Man, and he was Spider-Man kind of anti-hero / villain. He never was this good-looking guy. He didn't become what he was until the '80s, like more of a handsome, ruggedly handsome.
Well, Alex, there's a difference between having the hero of the comic a killer and the villain of the comic a killer. Like, again, I'm actually pretty nervous about the backup story in Heroic Tales of people getting a little offended by it. But
I'm not offended, but I read it.
But that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy does bad things in a bad world. You know what I mean? So, like, yeah, Thanos kills the Joker. My problem with Joker is how many times is Batman going to save his life? Geez,
yeah, that's the problem having a character 75 years old.
Punisher 13, is this a new series? Yeah, then Punisher lectures the cops. Yeah, I can't comment on it because I only saw a couple of panels, probably out of context, but I don't know. We all have a problem with cops wearing it. It's nuts to see, but I hear a cop who had that F on his air. Yeah, I don't, if I was in charge of a police force, I'd be like, listen, we have a bad reputation problem, for good or for bad, earned or unearned. We have it. We need to be more PR friendly, and putting skulls on us, emblematic of a hero who disobeys the law. We can't have that. Yes. And again, the skull is cool. How many people have friends who have some sort of, they either have that Calvin peeing on stuff that drives me nuts because
I don't like that either.
I don't like that either. Or they have a Punisher skull, but they're not into comics.
Creator doesn't get anything out of it.
Freaking cool. It is freaking cool.
The Calvin thing drives me nuts because Bill Watterson did not go that way with Calvin and Hobbes. No T-shirts, nothing. Right. And now these people are going to rip him off. Come on.
Right. He specifically didn't want any merchandise. Agreed. Punisher is kind of out of his place. Ideally, he works best when the government is protecting his citizens and he's in the military. Right. I think the Punisher works best in 70s New York City, pre-Giuliani, which I guess is returning now. Punisher, right now is
it's returned. Yeah, pre-Giuliani. Yeah. I went to school in New York City pre-Giuliani. I'm very well versed in that. Yeah.
Agree. Punisher's. Oh, I already read that comment. I thought I clicked. Wolverine historically is the most famous X, but he's right. But they also retcon that. How you know that one? I forget the issue, but the issue with Wolverine alone, where he's killing all the, and then they retconned it that he didn't kill them, and I understand it.
Yeah, but when Wolverine started, he was just another character to get in between the Wendigo and the Hulk, and he didn't have a backstory.
Right.
And he was supposed to be a vicious, he was supposed to maybe be a villain. They weren't sure if he was going to be a hero or villain. And then Len Wein added him. They needed a Canadian character because he wanted to have the original DEI is the Uncanny X-Men, Giant Size X-Men #1, where they had one of everybody, right? You know, from every country. They want to have an international team. And so he was a Canadian character. They put him up. And we knew he was meaner than everybody, but nobody knew he was a killing machine until way later.
His powers are he stabs people.
But they didn't even know like a lot about him.
Right, they were making it up as they went along. They didn't know he
regenerated.
They gave him senses. They didn't know if he was.
No, they had no idea what his mutant powers were.
They thought maybe he was like created by the High Evolutionary. But
I remember that. Yeah, that would have been good.
Historically, Wolf is the most. He's pure killing. Yeah, so I understand. Like Wolverine.
But that's what made Wolverine good. He's going to keep himself from being the killing machine. You know, also he wasn't a big character until John Byrne showed up.
Right.
Dave Cockrum loved Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler was a star in a lot of those X-Men. And then when Byrne took the Canadian character, being Canadian himself, and then when he did the, you know, and when he was in the sewers that time, I mean, he clearly killed all those guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, they don't mention that they're dead, but they're dead. We know that. It's just the way comics are. And, you know, was he going to control his berserker rage? That was the
issue in the Savage Land.
That's right.
I think around 111, 112, Wolverine kills a bunch of Savage Man primates, but they don't show it. But you see the look of horror on Storm's face. You know, like
right.
And Wolverine loved the Savage Land because kill or be killed, eat meat.
I like the Savage Land too. Those were good issues.
Logic's Finest says Wolverine is still a killing machine. No, you can't.
I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying that wasn't the whole thing that they.
You know what I mean? It's like I remember when I saw the Logan movie, and then the car pulls up as he's changing the tire, and Wolverine pops the claws and just chops the guy's arm off. I remember I turned to my wife and said, "They're finally making a Wolverine movie." He's stabbed, man. His powers are he takes out a knife and he stabs you. That's that. Punisher's Charles Bronson in those Cannon movies. Yeah, pretty much.
Well, what I'm saying is that was part of it early on. What was going to keep him from killing everybody?
Right.
What's going to be him? He didn't want to be the Berserker Rage. He wanted to go to Japan. He would be calmed down by Mariko.
Right.
It wasn't until his true origin that Barry Windsor Smith came up with, not Chris Claremont, that he became the Weapon X that we're now. It's more. I'm older, so I remember him still when he started in 1976. And John remembers as well. The newer thing, remember him from the 90s. From the 90s, he's a killing machine. By the time Jim Lee had him, he was a killing machine. Absolutely, absolutely true.
Right. Well,
and Logic's Finest is absolutely correct. I'm not.
Yeah, Logic is pretty much always correct. Wolverine's a very cool character. He's the exception to the rule that heroes don't kill. Yeah, so that begs the question: Is Judge Dredd, is the Punisher, and by extension Wolverine, are they anti-heroes?
I think they're anti-heroes. Like Prince Namor was always an anti-hero. Marvel had a history of anti-heroes.
Right.
Human Torch.
Marvel was okay with more gray or shades of gray, which I think is why we all liked Marvel better, or at least
Absolutely.
I did. Yeah. Those Hellfire God became Cyborg Reavers. I know they but I don't know.
I know.
How many Cyborg Reavers were there? 7, but in my mind, 36 of them still went after him, so he still killed 23 of them. Golden adamantium, is that a thing? Is there gold? Is this something I don't know about? Why? This is why, in my opinion, it's a necessary element because the Joker should have been put down a long time ago. Yep. And we all know the only reason he's not is because he's a cash cow. You know what I mean?
He is a cash cow, yeah.
And my street level vigilante hero, who I don't want to change to the design, he just.
I don't think you have to change his design.
I don't think I'm going to change the design.
You
Matter
just
of
leave
fact,
it. If somebody says something, they say something. It just there's
right.
plenty of the current designs out there are not that original anyway. It is what it is.
Right. I'm not changing.
I'm not saying they're good
And
or
while
bad.
Marcus talks, I'm actually going to. I think it's kind of appropriate to the conversation. So Marcus, you talk while I look for the image that Renzo drew.
Okay, so I'm looking at from the start. Logic, Logic's finest says from the start, Wolverine was always fighting his animal nature. Professor X was right. That's absolutely correct. And then yes, Tyson LaFrance, Magneto did take his adamantium, and then he had to deal with that, not being much more vulnerable. But unfortunately, Marvel made his healing powers so good, you'd take a nuclear bomb to kill Wolverine at this point. You cut his head off, and he'd grow a new head. It's a little ridiculous.
I think it's too much.
It got to be too much. But at the beginning, then we weren't sure what his powers were. We thought it was his tracking and his senses. They didn't talk about his healing power in the first few issues at all. And Len Wein thought his claws came out of his gloves.
Right.
All this other, the typical, like, he grew into what he is. That they came out that he was actually in massive pain every time he popped his claws.
All right. So in issue 3, I'm going to debut this character. I'm not telling you the name because every time I give this character a name, a comic comes out 3 days later with the character's name. But as you can see, he's inspired by Travis Bickle from the Taxi Driver. When my comic is all ready to go, I'm going to have this colored and I'm going to have this lettered. On the top, it's going to say, "Someday a real rain will wash away the scum off the streets." And then on the bottom, it's going to say, "I am that rain." So that's why his symbol is raindrops on his chest. And as you can see, he carries a gun. The only reason why my character doesn't kill as well, he does, but he doesn't just walk up and shoot people, is the cops can't cover that up. He is a cop. He's an undercover cop. He's deep in the mob. So he's actually making it like high rank in the mob. So he'll like go home and call like Marcus Kelligrew is going to be at blah, blah, blah. And Marcus Kelligrew gets arrested. And then the next day he goes to the mob meeting and Marcus Kelligrew is like, "Oh man, I had a rough night. The cops came in. The lawyers got me off though." And he's just like fuming. So then he gets a phone call from his wife. She wants a divorce because he's been so undercover. He's never home. He puts on a mask and then just starts beating the crap out of criminals. Like talking, like he's not arresting them. He's not he's punishing them, but if he shoots them, then that's just going to cause too much problems. So he's making it so that these people cannot commit crimes anymore. So if he meets the Joker, he's breaking the Joker's knees, breaking the Joker's elbows. He'd be like, "Go ahead. You're not going to," because he knows that arresting him is just a waste of time. And I'm not changing this design anymore. So there you go. I've told you everything about this character except his name, because that to me is bad luck. I've changed his name 3 times. I'm not doing that anymore. But also, I already gave too much. If Wolverine's power is healing ability and his wolf-like tracking his claws are not his power, yeah.
Right.
So he can work without his claws, but let's face it, his claws were his original cool power. Frank is a necessary element. I love Frank Castle now. I've grown to really love him.
Well, it's like Dirty Harry. It's like watching Dirty Harry movie, Well, that Dirty Harry is more like Judge Dredd. Charles Bronson is more like the Punisher.
Right. This was something I don't know if they still do, but I love the fact that Wolverine was almost embarrassed and ashamed by his berserker animalistic rages.
Yeah, I like that.
I thought that was such a good touch, and to him get rid of that, to me, it was like getting rid of an essential. That's like Peter Parker getting rid of his guilt. Anti-heroes have vices or questionable methods, but are on the right side. Okay, that's a pretty good explanation. You're not rich enough to be sued anyway. I know.
That's true.
I know.
You can't get blood from a stone.
What do you want from me? Okay, you can have part of the debt that I went into to make this comic. Here is the less common anti-villain has virtues and sense of honor, but always on the wrong side. Oh, is this the Taxi Driver shot? Yeah. You like that piece? Cool. I'm thinking that might be this a center spread in issue 2 as an advertisement for issue 3. Did you already talk about how they turned Punisher into another Batman with his backup upon backup plans? Yeah, I hate that. I Batman to me should be a good strategist, meaning he has a long-term plans. Punisher should be good at tactics, meaning in the field dealing with things. And there are different. There are different. Like if you're good at strategy, you're going to be good at the game of chess. I'm terrible at chess, but I'm good at tactics. So like when I play a game of like a Twilight Imperium or Memoir 44, I'm good because I could adapt on the change. I'm good with tactics. And I think that Punisher is a tactical guy. Batman is a strategy guy. How do you like that, some person? Don't change your character design. The Horseman isn't the first character with a crest on his head. Yeah, but they're both street level, super violent vigilantes, and I don't need people like. Oh, yeah.
There was a post. Oh, there it is. The Herrenberg. Yeah, that struck me as kind of, he had another one up the thing where he was replying to Zactan, and Herrenberg said, "I think the only reason we see Dredd as an antihero is because Mega City 1 law is more extreme than real life. The hallowed halls of the judges. Dredd is the ultimate hero." That's kind of what I was trying to say.
Okay.
Herrenberg may have said it better, or he did say it better. He could join us, though. He joined.
Yeah, Herrenberg, come on in. The water's fine. Yes, you're right. Characters like Wolverine, Punisher have drifted incredibly far. Yeah, they all characters kind of drift. I mean, the Fantastic Four aren't what I keep saying that they aren't what they started out in the first 10 issues of the Fantastic Four. They were. Reed Richards was kind of sinister. We'll just call him Taxi Man. There you go. I'll drive you to hell. Guys, we got a new character, Taxi Man. I'll drive you to hell.
Is it Taxi Man or Taxi Man?
Taxi Man. Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
It's kind of ironic seeing Wolverine interact with the Beast being more rational. Wolverine, yeah, but that's the joke, is that the Beast was the smartest.
Beast was always that way.
Beast was always logical and smart and fun. I always thought the Beast was a fascinating character. But
the Beast has been through like 3 personalities.
I know.
He started out as the big words and really super smart with Stanley Rodham, and then they kind of made him a little more Ben Grimmy, and then they changed him to be, what he is, the blue fur, the gray fur, then the blue fur, and then they made him a party guy, a smart party guy. He's changed a lot of times.
Tyson LaFart, are you talking about my character? Gives me the year 1 vibe. I'm digging it. Because if so, that's a great compliment, and I thank you so much. If not, that's cool too. I think the only reason we see Judge Dredd as an anti-hero is because Mega City 1 law is more extreme. Oh, okay.
That's the one
I didn't realize you read that. I thought you were reading from something.
Yeah.
So you're trying to guess my character's name. If you follow my pyramid method, it's not too hard to redirect. His symbol is raindrops. He's street level. It's not too difficult to figure it out. And I like to think it works good. And man, that raindrop symbol is going to look good on a coin and on a tissue, a t-shirt. It kind of looks like he's got a short skirt on with a codpiece sticking out. I could show you some of the other sketches Renzo did. Codpiece, man. Believe it or not, in issues of I think it's Doom Patrol, there was a superhero called the Codpiece.
Did they?
Yeah, looks like the Kree officer. Yes, it's funny because when I described him to Renzo went immediately, "Oh, like an original Kree soldier," But it's supposed to be like reminiscent of Travis Bickle, the taxi driver.
Travis Bickle.
Don't change your character; it's fine. Okay, because I had one guy said you got to redesign it, and I don't want to. No, he has a name. He has a superhero name, and I'm actually talking with a person about a logo right now because he's got to have a logo. Punisher wins because I don't know anything about Dredd. I'm with you, Eric. Although I'm learning. Comics are for everyone. Comics, unless you're an alt-right Nazi, whatever.
My dad liked Judge Dredd comics. He's a lawyer.
I have a theory that Frank Castle's biological father was Bob Benton, also known as the Black Terror, and he might have had ties to S.H.I.E.L.D., the Black Nick Fury. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, he does look like
that's a great storyline.
That's a great fan theory, Lucas. Now I have. because his costume does look like the Black Terror. Good call. For those of you who don't know, the Black Terror is a Golden Age character who at one point had no powers and at other points could smash planets in half, like so many of the Golden Age characters.
And then recently, Von Klaus did a very popular crowdfund with the Black Terror.
Black Terror has a cool design. He's got the skull and the crossbones symbol on.
The crossbones, yeah.
That's a good thing. I will say this, that I always thought, and people got mad at me when I started saying this, and I wrote to Chuck Dixon, and he basically told me I was wrong too. But I still like this idea that that the Punisher is a killer. He's a born killer. He's good at it. It makes him comfortable to the point where Frank Castle, like it or not, is a serial killer. He has this urge in him to kill people.
Yeah, he's a serial killer.
Just like Dexter. Dexter, it's only a matter of time before Dexter's going to kill. So Frank joined the military. I have a friend. I haven't talked to him in 20 years. I got to see how he's doing. But he became a surgeon. And when I said, why a surgeon, man? To me, I could never be a surgeon. It's too much responsibility. I'd pass that. And he said, John, I'm going to cut into bodies. I'm going to do it either legally or illegally. So I chose a way to get my urges out legally, and it's very lucrative. And he said it with such a faith that I actually got terrified of one of my friends. And he's doing really well. He's a surgeon now, thank God. And the last time I talked to him, he said, John, you'd be surprised at how many surgeons said, if it wasn't for medical school, I'd be a serial killer. They have this need to cut into bodies. So Frank Castle has this need to kill. And he joined the military where that was a boon. So afterwards, when he came, and this is my theory, and when he comes home, he was miserable. I'm not going to say he was a bad father. He was a competent father, but he was cold. He did what a father was supposed to do. He went through the motions. And then when his family died, secretly, that was the happiest day of his life, because now he has an excuse to be what he was always meant to be. And when I said that to Chuck Dixon, he kind of told me he told me I was wrong, but I don't know. That's the way that's how I would write the Punisher if I could write the Punisher. But I wouldn't contradict any of these people who are, because that's wrong too. But anyway, that's my theory of the Punisher. Eric Guapo, sorry, Judge Dredd wipes Frank. He's the same man plus future weapons and healing technology. Can't argue with healing technology.
That's true.
You don't want to mess with, whoa, what is it that points behind a guy, look back, job mysteriously disappears tactics. Yeah. I 40s. I'm gonna spoil my my character story over there, because that's he fights the way Batman should fight. And we got a special. Oh, and my mouse stopped working again. Hey, Heroenberg, how you doing?
Hail.
Hey, Heroenberg.
Hi, Marcus.
How you doing?
I'm great. Yeah, it took me about 8 or 9 minutes to punch through the StreamYard things.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And if anybody does want to come in, you got to close the YouTube window, otherwise it creates a horrible echo. I learned that.
Oh, that I knew. I don't have any other windows open.
Well, yeah, you're fine. You just made me think of it. Agreed. I think Batman thinks ahead, whereas the Punisher does some planning, but is more adaptable. Yeah, and I think Batman is just more smart in a different way. Taxi Man with the sidekick, hot dog vendor man. There you go. Taxi Man with his arch enemy Uberman,
and Lift Man, Lift Woman,
and Lift Boy.
Lift Boy.
Judge Dredd has drones, high-tech weapons, can tap into all surveillance equipment, has armor in his uniform, and his weapon has multiple types of ammunition. You said he has 6 types of ammunition. Do you know? Yeah, this is his golden age sidekick that we don't talk about anymore, Rickshaw Man.
The Hot Dog Man changed his name to the Hot Dog. So
the vendor. Do you guys see Dredd with Carl? I didn't see any movies.
That's a good movie. Like when he clears out that whole building and everything, that's great.
Stay woke. Yeah. Have you met me?
The Block, that is.
Okay. The lawgiver, Judge Dredd's gun, has a standard bullet, a heat seeker,
Yeah.
It has a ricochet bullet. It's coated with rubber. It bounces off of solid surfaces while retaining enough kinetic energy to penetrate flesh. So, in center, he has a napalm round. He has an armor-piercing bullet and a high-explosive shell out of that one gun.
And of
Okay.
course, his vehicle, his motorcycle.
Yeah, the motorbike has lasers, laser guns, and all sorts of
It
all
flies.
sorts of fun
Doesn't
things.
it fly? I forget.
Yeah, it's a flying motorbike,
Yeah,
right?
it flies. Yeah. Mhm.
Yep.
Even I knew that.
Yeah.
The mighty Kevin says he knows my character's name, but he won't say. No, you don't, Kevin, because the character was originally called the Raven, and he was a flat-out Batman clone. Where his costume was even just instead of a bat, it was a bird. Then when too many people were like, dude, there's too many characters named Raven, and then I changed it to the Rook, and then a comic called the Rook.
Yeah,
So
there's a
how I
couple of
change
those.
it, I'm not telling anybody. Brian Bow knows, Renzo knows, and the guy who's doing the logos know. But other than that, nobody knows because I'm tired of changing it. I don't want to. I believe Punisher would win because he'll cheat to win. I don't know if Judge Dredd has that as make. Would Judge Dredd cheat? And what is cheating?
Judge Dredd does a lot of tricking criminals. I don't really think he cheats because he can use any means. Like basically, the law is such that he can use any means at his disposal to achieve the aim. So there's really nothing he can't do because he's the judge, the jury, and the judge. So yeah, that's why they call him the judge instead of just a cop.
But my character's secret identity's name is Travis Corbin. Travis from but I might actually change Travis because it's too on the nose with Travis Bickle. But his last name is going to be Corbin. Corbin means Raven, and it's going to be a tribute to his original name. For 20 years of my campaign was the Raven, so I might change his name to his first name. Dredd's 2012 is an awesome film, close to the comics. Yeah, that was the Carl Urban one. I got to check it out. Everybody loves that movie.
Carl Urban is correct in comic book productions. Carl Urban is correct.
Yeah, it depends. The Punisher would adapt and steal some weapons off a weaker judge. That's a whole scenario. But again, the whole premise of these things is they use their most typical stuff. So Judge Dredd doesn't use. The Punisher doesn't in a typical Punisher story. He doesn't use high-tech weapons like this. We're not talking about the Golden Avenger Punisher from when he had the Angel guns. We're talking about the average. So he did
have microchip making stuff.
True, but would it be on the par with Judge Dredd high-tech weapons and heat-seeking bullets?
No. Well, don't forget, Judge Dredd takes place in the future.
Right. That's what I mean. So like even high-tech microchips.
Quite a bit far in the future, and that comes up in there. It's a grimy high-tech, though. It isn't clean. And the fact that they can regenerate Judge Dredd almost when he's almost dead.
Logic is hard. He's hard in the paint for Judge Dredd. Hello. I'm grateful. So he's grateful, Marcus.
I forgave him for being late.
Oh. Like I mentioned, it depends on who gets the ambush. Yeah. I think the Punisher could be hanging out in Mega City 1 and waiting because Judge Dredd, I assume, still has to eat and get his coffee. So I imagine he's getting his coffee cup. I have the law. He steals the cup of coffee. And then boom, he gets shot in the neck. You know what I mean? So you could set up that scenario.
That's right, Logic.
Hey, Judge, I got a crime report. A cinder block is about to fall on a judge. Judge is knocked unconscious. I like that. That's like Spy vs. Spy or something. You guys made a mistake thinking Frank Castle's human. He's not. He's vengeance personified. I saw a history of Punisher, and his motives does not seem to kill for killing's sake, but he doesn't want to get in trouble. Yeah. He your theory is Jason. Oh, my theory? Jason Aaron did that. He owes me money. Everybody steals my ideas. Everybody steals. That's why I'm not saying the name of my character. I see the Punisher that way. Hello, Harrenberg. Have you any links to your book? Yeah. Harrenberg, put all your links in the private chat. We'll put them in the public chat. Good.
I don't know about any old ones being. I don't know about any old ones being closed. Oh.
Now, Zach 10 says, I think the Punisher did want to have peace with his family and his moral morality anchor. Yeah, that's what Chuck Dixon was saying to me. That he was happy with his family. I do like the Netflix version of the Punisher. I thought that was a really good.
He looked a lot like the Punisher, a little small, but facially he looked a lot like Frank Castle.
Logic says that he doesn't think that the Punisher enjoys killing. He just takes the stance that criminals deserve death, so he will kill bad guys. Yep. Again, when you're told you're wrong by Chuck Dixon, you got to take it to heart. Agreed. If there's no violent criminals, I don't think the Punisher would kill. I love that the last Punisher story. Did anybody ever read that? It was him and a woman left on Earth after like a nuclear pop.
Oh yeah, I seen that.
And this woman, spoiler. I'm just giving people a couple seconds to change. But apparently this woman caused the apocalypse. And it's just her and Frank Castle living in a bunker, and then Frank shoots her because she's a criminal.
Oh, that makes sense.
And then there's nobody left on the Earth. So Frank Castle says there's only one criminal left to punish, and he shoots himself. That's how hardcore he is.
That's dark.
Yeah, it was really dark. I loved it. RoboCop kick RoboCop.
That's like a Twilight Zone. That's kind of like a Twilight Zone Punisher.
Yeah. RoboCop kicks both their asses, and I'm not disagreeing with that. I don't think. Oh, I know because I know you. That sounds like a threat, Kevin. Doesn't Judge Dredd have that incendiary ammo that burns a guy's head?
Napalm.
Yeah. Punisher killed the Marvel Universe. Yeah, that.
That's that Batman thing where if you plan long enough, you can take out anybody.
I don't see. I mean, I was gonna say I don't see how he kills the Hulk, but if he sneaks up on a sleeping Banner,
Bruce Banner,
and I don't like that the Bruce Banner in the comics shot himself and then turned into the Hulk to save himself. I don't know that. Then
they had the Immortal Hulk where the writer, what's his name, he decided the Hulk is actually immortal. He went back to the beginning of the Hulk and named all. It's just like anything. They don't tell anybody that Bruce Banner died here and he died here and he died here, and the Hulk has always come back. So the Hulk must be immortal.
Wait, was that Al Ewing?
Yeah, Al Ewing. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Baron von Pretzel, born in Hoboken.
I mean, as an alternative version of the Hulk, it was okay.
Some person, you got a crowdfunding idea right here. There you go. There was no reality where the Punisher beats Judge Dredd. If someone is actually familiar with the comics, they wouldn't say that. Well, I'm fully admitting that I'm not familiar with the comics. Where's the battle? Omega City, the Wasteland, New York City?
Cursed Earth? Yeah.
The Cursed Earth, that's my favorite.
No Iron Man punish. None of, because we can have. I'm sure there's a story where Judge Dredd was stranded someplace without any of his high-tech weapons, and there's a story someplace where Iron Man armor was on the Punisher. Yeah, that version is going to beat that version. You know what I mean? But what I like to do in these Clobbering times is the most common version versus the most common version.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we can do that rules lawyer thing and take out the there's the cosmic Silver Surfer version of the Punisher. We're not talking about that. Zach Den doesn't use an Iron Man suit, but he did have a war machine, and he was also Frankencastle at one point with the Bloodstone of Eliza Bloodstone. Street judging weapons are bio-coded to each judge. Okay, see, I didn't know that. That's true. That's good to know.
Yep, that's true.
And we got backup by Heroinberg. And by the way, I've seen behind the curtain. I know what Heroinberg looks like. Punisher wouldn't last a day.
Oh yeah, so do I.
Oh, you met?
Yeah, at Heroes Con.
Ruh-roh.
Uh-oh. You guys read comics where Batman met the Punisher?
He's not as good looking as his heroines, though.
Nope. Sorry. That's one of the reasons why I put them on the avatar.
That's right.
Links from several years ago. What if the version of Punisher grew up in Mega City 1? Yeah, I mean, we could do what if versions, but okay. Oh, Heroinberg. There we go. Oh, I'm sorry. I asked you to put your links in, and then I didn't copy it.
I got it.
Oh, it's the same link. Okay, cool. A woman starting the apocalypse. How typical. That was a great story. I'm just trying to get caught up. I wouldn't wait I know, but that shows you that Punisher has an absolute code that he lives by. Batman won't kill. Like even Superman, like the John Byrne Superman, he killed, right? he exposed the Phantom Zone criminals.
That was pretty controversial. That's not.
Right.
I think that's not something.
But Batman won't kill. I don't know. Now as I'm older, I like a Superman that doesn't kill, and I will accept a Batman that kills because he's only human, but Superman's not human. Superman should be above that. I said it a million times. Superman is like an angelic figure and should be treated as such. Maybe people would actually read Judge Dredd instead of making opinions about on back with the Punisher's type of. Don't get mad. This is all in fun.
Yeah.
Don't get mad.
As far as Superman, though, I think he kind of has to kill sometimes, doesn't he? Because he faces superpowered alien threats that are like so dangerous that he has to stop them by doing more than just imprisoning them.
I'm a human supremacist. If he's going to kill Mogul, that's no skin off my nose.
That's what I'm saying. He might have to kill Mongol, yes, or somebody like that.
I don't know if that's is that a comic? Is there a story that would be a really interesting story, like Superman? Like
I don't think he's ever. Well, there's so much. If you went back and looked at all the comics, even from the beginning of comics, the characters in the 40s killed with regularity. Nobody cared.
Batman carried a gun.
Didn't come up till way later. They weren't bloodthirsty or anything, but they killed. I mean, I just read an article where Captain America pretty much just killed 1 million Chinese, because that's part of the war,
Yeah.
So, but that, we forget about all that, obviously, but when you go and you watch these things, well, of course, it's like watching the first Avengers movie, right? You watch the first Avengers movie, they're destroying New York, and the Avengers are protecting New York. Well, how many civilians died in that?
Yeah,
half in New York?
That's why I kind of resent the Loki series. We're supposed to cheer on this guy who killed more New Yorkers than Bin Laden.
Right. So, but they always do that in comics. There's always people that are, if you really look at it, have died, but nobody really thought about it. That's that whole thing with the Hulk has always not killed anybody the whole time, even though it destroyed cities. I mean, come on.
Superman lobotomy. Is that like in continuity? I vaguely remember reading that. Yeah.
I wanted to briefly respond to some person. I appreciate his compliment, but I would more consider myself to be the spiritual George Perez, and that if anybody is the spiritual Stanley around in my neighborhood, it might be Ted Sikora from Cleveland. I think he's more a Stan Lee, and I'm more of a George Perez, but we'll leave it at that. Yeah. Okay.
Where was I? Superman is supposed to be the most powerful. Plus, supposed to. Yeah. We were. Yeah.
Right,
Kevin is 100% right. We, even little kids and even parents giving comic books to little kids were okay with killing. We were at war.
Everybody was killing everybody and punching all the Nazis and whatever.
Yeah, killing was. Hate to say it, was common at the time. Yeah. So yeah. But yeah, detectives has Batman throwing somebody into acid, and he had those cool purple gloves. How cool were those original Batman purple? I love those purple gloves. I have a Batman action figure, like original, with the purple gloves and like the bowed out thing. It's so cool. The original. I love the original design for Batman. One of Superman's greatest powers is yes. That I talk about that. That was written by I think it was Marv Wolfman, drawn by Jerry Ordway, where back right during the reboot.
I love Jerry Ordway.
Where Superman is facing Brainiac for the first time, and Brainiac was a human like mentalist who was messing with Superman, and then Superman grabs him and says, "You're messing with Superman." He goes, "Do you know how powerful I am? I could take over the world in one day. I could take over the world. You know what stops me from taking over the world? My mental willpower. And you were messing with that. You were messing with the one thing that could stop me from taking over the world." And then he just throws Brainiac into a jail. So I thought that was such a powerful story to show you that it takes the power of Superman to contain the power of Superman. I thought it was brilliant.
Good.
Like killing is okay, kill or be killed situation, but yeah. Like nobody's gonna say like, "Hey, Paste Pot Pete, come over here," and then Ben Grimm just crushes him with an anvil. Okay, let's go back. As much as we would laugh at that comic book, it would
In the early Fantastic Four, Ben Grimm smashed everybody into bloody jelly.
You know what I mean? And let's also be realistic. Ben Grimm punching anybody without powers would be a death sentence. You know,
I think Ben Grimm, if his mail was late, maybe he'd punch Willie Lumpkin. I don't know.
Well, you said something interesting, John. Where if you're a human and we got into a fight, like a real fight, humans don't fight all that well unless they're trained, right? If you get cold cocked by a fist, you don't see it. It's going to cause a lot of damage to you. You can get a broken orbital bone. There's a comedian who got cold cocked by a girl who was like 130 pounds, and he broke an orbital bone. It's not a joke. Like, your hands get broken in fights. People don't fight. That's the thing about comics. If it's really realistic, do we want it to be that realistic?
That's one of the things I always like in that cartoon Archer. Like, somebody will get punched and knocked out, and like Archer's like waking him up, like, dude, you got to go to a hospital. It's like, okay, I just got knocked out. He goes, no, getting knocked out is serious. You could have a concussion, you can die.
We don't,
and as much as Archer's a dick, whenever somebody got unconscious, they were like, this is a big deal. It became like a running joke, but it's true. Like,
it's just you little things happen. You fall from 4 feet and you can really wreck yourself. Like we last a long time, but we can break easy at the same time.
I think there are a few comics that show a high level of gore, like The Boys. I think would qualify maybe.
Right? Yeah. Well,
Invincible. Yeah, I think both of those.
Yeah.
I say that, but those are too rough for me. I'm not even that nuts about it. I appreciate
but
them,
think
but I'm
about
not
this:
nuts
like
about it.
in the regular DCU, Batman swings across the building and hits henchman number 5, and henchman number 5 goes through it across. How many of those guys died later on in the hospital? Like, Batman punches a guy in the jaw, takes out another guy. Like you said, that guy, or Daredevil hit somebody over the head with a freaking club.
Yeah, Damage Incorporated, right? Is there a an insurance incorporated for superheroes who cause injuries that wind up being fatal later on? Or
that's actually a subplot that Daredevil's Netflix show, the Super Fund that they used it, and that the Kingpin managed to get.
Oh, right,
I thought that was brilliant.
He also went to Night Nurse too.
I'm sorry.
They had the Night Nurse in Daredevil and Punisher.
Yeah, I thought that was
and
brilliant.
In Kingpin. Power Man.
But realistically, Daredevil has to have accidentally killed somebody in the course of his career.
At the very least, these people have broken jaws. If you really are like him, you're in a condition that Daredevil is, and he's 6'1" or 6'2", he's 220 of all muscle. He's an Olympian athlete. You get punched by a guy like that. I mean,
well, I like what some guys. Thank you for the comments today. You guys are
but that's like the Brat Pack. You ever see that Rick Veitch?
I was just talking about that yesterday. I love that.
That's really rough, but that's more realistic. It's not too much fun, though. I mean, it is fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That if you take a realistic version of it, it's nasty.
I was more able to deal with horrible violence, stuff like that, to the point where the Boys comic, I bought it, but I didn't read it because it bothered me. But then I collected all the issues, and then I said, I got to read it. I bought them all, and then it hurt my stomach. But it's saving grace was those were Garth Ennis's characters. If Garth Ennis had done to the DC characters what he did to the Boys, I would have been like livid. But you know what I mean? You could create your own characters and then be mean to them and torture them or whatever. But and here I am making up a character who's going to be super, super violent. But that's the point of the story, that he's super, super
violent. I mean, imagine if Superman had killed the real Justice, like in the first, episode of the cartoon, where Omni-Man kills the entire rest of his of the team.
Yeah.
Imagine if Superman had done that to the Justice League, and like Wonder Woman's intestines are everywhere. Oh my gosh. That's not too good.
I want to address some person. He says right here, I always figured that non-powered superheroes must have powers to let. Yeah. Well, and that made me laugh because Eric July just came out that he did that animated trailer for Horseman, and people like, oh, this guy's got no powers, but he jumped off a building. It's like, dude, have you read a freaking comic book? Daredevil's got no powers, and he's jumping off of buildings. Batman, Nightwing. knock it off. So we all agree that there's a suspension of disbelief. Batman, dude, I crashed my car into a tree. Airbag saved my life. I'm out of work. I'm disabled for 3 months so far. How many times should Batman be disabled? Stabbed, beat up. I think there's like only a few stories Batman broke his back. You know what I mean? That should have been the end of his career. But we know it's wrong, but it's one of those comic book things.
Yeah, it's suspension of disbelief. It's like saying, a lot of the science is might as well be magic. Same deal.
Right, like Tony Stark, his inventions, he might as well be a wizard instead of a scientist. Yeah. I like Invincible. I do not like Kirkman's pacing, though. The entire issues of Invincible are tucky. Yes, sometimes. I agree. They're quick reads. Something about Kirkman, you could just it's just quick. They showed up in a Batman book. One guy had a bat boot print on his face. That's pretty funny. In the Zdarsky run. What does he say? That reminds me of Donald Duck comic. Goofy was annoying him, so Donald tied him up and chained him to a large rock. He killed Goofy. The Watchmen, the Watchmen was super realistic as far as comics go, except for Dr. Manhattan. When you said the suspension of disbelief, it's like, there was another term that I heard that really, I forget it. I'll come back to my thought. I can't.
You know why the Watchmen is realistic? Because I just ate beans out of a can the other day.
I think that there's a theory that everyone in DC Marvel is slightly powered to be more durable. Yeah. But then again, Aunt May.
Yeah, that's part of it, yeah.
Aunt May's 900 years old. She survived getting thrown off a building, get buried alive, 800 heart attacks.
It's funny. Steve Ditko made Aunt May so old, but it's really Steve Ditko made Aunt May so old when Aunt May, based on the age of Peter Parker, would actually be more the age of the movie Aunt May, right?
Right. We are willing to suspend. Yeah. There's a term that I'm not thinking of. Maybe humans work differently. Yeah, they do. Because in comic books, you get bit by a radioactive spider. Instead of getting cancer, you get powers. So yeah, humans do work. You could wear a Batman movie mask. Yeah, I could wear the Michael Keaton mask, right? It would work with this.
Yeah, I think the two terms would be you have a suspension of belief, which is versus verisimilitude, which is making it as close to real life as possible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I guess there's room for both, I suppose. I mean, how many superhero comics are really being made? You go out there and every comic. Well, you're making them, Heroinberg.
Yep.
John's making them, but a lot of the comics are all too realistic. Well, not realistic, but they're all Netflix pitches, so they all have that sense of realism.
Oh, I told you, Netflix is picking up the Heroic Tales. The Patriarch is going to be played by Seth Rogen.
Seth Rogen has to do a few. He has to do a few crunches and lifts before he can.
No, that's just it. It's body positive. It's body.
Oh, so it's more like Thor's dad bod.
Yeah, how cool would it be to have your own Lazarus pit? I would even deal with the. Do they still do this? That when you first come out of the Lazarus pit, you're just insane and screaming and yelling.
They did that in Green Arrow, in the Arrow.
I love that. That is such a great. I just love it. You come back to life, but for like 4 minutes, you're like.
Yeah, you did that in the Arrow show.
I think Kevin says Aunt May has residual powers from being the Herald of Galactus.
You have to go to R.T. Bear's house. He has the Lazarus pit in his garage. He's really 175 years old.
Lazarus. How do you spell that? You
Lazur.
Yeah, I told you when I was in 6th grade, I was the kid who brought comic books to school, and we're all reading comics. I'm giving out burned X-Men. If only I knew how much those were going to be worth, I would never have given them away. And I remember I'm going to this kid, Andy. Hey, Andy, you want to read this comic? And he was like, no. I was like, why? He goes, who cares? The superheroes always win. The good guys always win. So he didn't want to read them. And I was like, yeah, but it's the storytelling. It's everything else. And he was like, nah. And I always wanted to talk to Andy now as an adult. Like, do you watch James Bond movies? James Bond always wins. Did you watch Star Wars? Like, we all know the good guys are going to win. You know, it's very rare that in our entertainment do the bad guys win, but it's the storytelling, you know.
Right.
But anyway, we still get enjoyment when we know Batman's going to win. What's this comment? There's one thing I'm wondering: what are wheat cakes? Is it just another name for pancakes, or is it? I thought it was a wheat cake was just another name for like
another name for a pancake.
A pancake using like a wheat-based flour. I think. Maybe what does that mean? That pork?
Maybe that's what they call it in that part, and where Steve Ditko grew up in Pennsylvania.
Oh, is that okay? You don't need a story for you go for the yes. Okay, so we got a lot of people here. Harrowberg, since you're the new guy, who's your champion?
Oh, I was just looking up wheat cakes. Sorry. Okay, what was your question again?
Who do you favor in the fight? Punisher versus?
Yeah, well, definitely Dredd. I mean, like I said, first of all, I know more about him.
Pitch.
For some reason, I was, reading a lot of Dredd, especially in like the 80s and early 90s. The movies have been good. I kind of like both interpretations of him because the Sly is just so iconic. But I mean, obviously, the Carl Urban one is better overall. But yeah, and I think Dredd also has like an incredible universe. You know, everything from the megacities to the Cursed Earth to all the futuristic weapons to Judge Death. He has, some very beautiful female judges going on there. Anderson. So,
Judge Hershey.
Hershey, yeah, of course. Hershey, like, was she really like his love interest at some point? I don't know.
I think she was at some point.
She was, right. So, yeah, overall, I just think like, yeah, I mean, I just know him a lot better than I know Punisher. To me, Punisher, was kind of associated with things like, Daredevil and Spider-Man and Typhoid Mary and things like that. And so I never really got deep into that lore. And so, I would just pick Dredd for many reasons. Yeah, I mean, the other one, of course.
So it sounds like you're picking with Judge Dredd because you like the character better. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, like the character better and more familiar for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Marcus, what do you think?
I think Judge Dredd wins. I think Judge Dredd, Frank Castle, when he comes up against other heroes, doesn't always win. Like most of his career, he loses to Daredevil. And Daredevil is not powered. So he loses Spider-Man. Spider-Man, obviously, it is powered. So he Punisher, Batman. Batman always has the upper hand, even when they work together in those crossovers. So to me, he often loses to the more rational, clear thinking, and nobody's more clear thinking than Judge Dredd. He can't really be distracted. He's got better. Punisher could come with any firepower he wants, but it's all going to be what we're thinking of now.
Right.
He has he has the lawgiver, the motorbike, the armor, the helmet. Like, I think that he has much more belief in what he does as well.
I think one of the best phrases for it, Marcus, is a phrase that I first saw in a comic. Remember when they introduced Longshot?
Yeah.
Yes.
And like his power is based on his purity of motive, right?
Right.
Same thing with Judge Dredd. I mean, Judge Dredd doesn't have powers, but he has purity of motive, and that's what drives him. So there you go.
It's not that that Punisher can't win. He could. I mean, maybe it's a 60% of the time type of thing. But I just think that Dredd has the equipment and the belief that he's going to win. And I like the Punisher. It's not a crack on the Punisher. I've always read all the Punisher comics.
Well, so this is what I figured. Like, in order to make either we do the tried and true Beyonder throws him in an arena and starts to fight. In which case, I think Judge Dredd's just gonna clean him up.
Contest of Champions.
You know what I mean? Like contest of champions style, like you said. Like boom, they just teleported him. He's, you know what I mean?
Marvel 2-in-1 issue.
But I like to think of like a. Punisher is taking out criminals in Mega City 1, and Judge Dredd is just like, nobody takes out people. That's against the law. I take out people. I am the law. And he goes after them. And like Marcus said, the Punisher has a history of losing to powerful people. And I know people are going to bring up, he beat him in Acts of Vengeance. But if you want to get pedantic, Dr. Doom got beaten by a Squirrel Girl, and Dr. Doom got beaten by, you know what I mean? Like
Luke Cage Power Man. Where's my money, honey?
Yeah, he got beaten up for $200. You know what I mean? Like I hate that. If I was editor in chief of Marvel Comics, Doom would lose to nobody but the Fantastic Four. You know what I mean? Like Galactus would lose to nobody but the Fantastic Four. I hate that. What do they call that in wrestling? Punking or the jobbing, where you lose to make somebody else look good. Oh God, that drives me nuts.
Yeah,
but anyway, Galactus and Thor. Galactus is such an important Thor villain as well.
Thor would have a chance against Doom or but like, I don't think it's dishonorable to lose to Doom. You know what I mean? But anyway, I think Judge Dredd would come across Punisher in my scenario, and they would fight. And oh my God, the fans would win because it would just be Punisher fighting here, running away, Punisher being sneaky, because the Punisher is very sneaky. One of my favorite Punisher stories is Daredevil and Wolverine team up to take out Frank Castle, written by Garth Ennis. And they show up, and what does the Punisher do? He throws down his guns. He goes, "You guys got me." He goes, I can't beat Daredevil. I can't beat the Punisher. I mean, I can't beat Wolverine. So he just surrenders, and Wolverine and Daredevil goes, "Don't trust him. It's a trick." Because Daredevil's crap. And Logan's like, "What's he gonna do? What's he gonna do?" And he's like, "Well, there's a bar right across the street. I'm going to jail. Let's be realistic. I'm never coming out, or I'm gonna get killed in prison. So let me get a steak, let me get a beer, and I'll go, no problem." And Daredevil's like, "It's a trick. It's a trick." And Wolverine's like, Wolverine's a man's man. He's like, "Let's go get the guy a steak, for old time's sake." They get a steak. He orders the steak, and he's questioned him. Like, "What do you do, Daredevil? There's more to you than a silly suit." And he gets Daredevil to admit hypersenses and stuff like that. He's like, "What about you?" He's like, "I regenerate." He goes, "What do you mean? Like from anything?" He's like, "Yeah, from anything." He's like, "Oh, okay." And he takes the pepper, throws it in Daredevil's face, and then takes the knife and stabs Wolverine right in the old C&Bs, right in the bait and tackle, and then jumps behind the bar, takes the shotgun, and then just into Wolverine and escapes. Did he beat Daredevil and Wolverine? Yes, in the fact that he wanted to get away, and then Wolverine's just laying there like, "I'm gonna kill him," because he's got to regenerate. Daredevil's momentarily stunned from pepper in his face. I thought that was brilliant. Now I don't know.
Great. If I have a question though about Daredevil.
Sure.
Isn't Daredevil able to hear people's heartbeats?
Right. That's why he was on edge the whole time. That's why he was on edge the whole, and that's why he waited till after a couple of years. Yeah.
All right.
So, and he wouldn't have done it if Wolverine. But it was so clever. Now, could Frank Castle do that to Judge Dredd? From what I know of the character, absolutely not. Judge Dredd's not going to have a beer with his prey. You know what I mean? So I hate to say it, but I barely read any Judge Dredd comics. I love the Punisher, but I think Judge Dredd would win because just we're talking typical tactics, typical weaponry. He's got somebody. He's got Judge Dredd's armor is going to repel a 44 or an AK-47. You know what I mean? And what is he going to do? So I shotgun might stun him. He's got, what has he got? Like heat-seeking missiles off laser beams. I think in a typical scenario, if I'm not editorially could say that the Punisher has to win, I would call it that Judge Dredd would win. Now, this is the part where the chat rips me apart. So chat, Go ahead. What do you think? Am I right? Am I wrong? We got 3 people on the panel. We all think that Judge Dredd would win. Tear us apart or congratulate us. What do you guys think? Hey, Matt Bauer is here. How you doing?
Hey, Matt.
I think Matt is backing us up. I'm scrolling back because I didn't want to read the chat while I was giving my thoughts. We got Zach Dad, I do believe it's how. Okay, I already read this. I don't think Frank would spit on Judge Dredd because I don't think Punisher is like vindictive. You know what I mean? I think he's more like, I got the mission done, move on. Mission done, move on. Punisher defeated. Yeah, we already talked about that. Yeah, The Village. I like The Village because my sister and my niece liked The Village, and we watched it together. So, sentimentality counts. If there's no sentimentality in the world, then what good is there? Punisher is the master. Yeah, I don't know. Is Judge Dredd known for fist fighting? Like, okay, now there's a scenario where they're in an arena in nothing but their underwear. Judge Dredd doesn't even have his helmet on. And it's funny because he's like a freckled, redheaded guy who looks like Archie or something like that. That's what you look like. No wonder you wear the helmet.
He looks like Rorschach does under the mask.
Yeah, that would be funny. So who would win in that particular case? I don't know enough about either character. Who would win in the three-way battle? Jonah Hex. Jonah Hex is just, I don't know. I love Jonah Hex, but I still think Judge Dredd would win. What is Judge Dredd? What is his six gun going to do against Judge Dredd's armor? But I love Judge Dredd even more. So just a great character. Dredd is a slave to tech. Punisher is a slave to. That's a good point. That's what I'm saying. Now, if they're thrown in socks and underwear, in a pit battle someplace, who would win in that particular fight? I literally don't know enough to make a decision. My gut would say Frank in that particular case, but I don't know. What do you think, Herrenberg? You're a bigger fan.
I mean, I'm not 100% aware of what Dredd's physique looks like, other than his very strong chin. Like, you don't see that a lot, so I don't know. I mean, yeah, Squirrel Girl could probably beat them both just because she can, but
I tell you, that bothers me to no end because now she's being used to justify whatever insanity.
She's the biggest Mary Sue in history.
Oh my God,
yeah.
I liked when she debuted in the Marvels. I forget what it was, Super Secret Stories or whatever, drawn by I kind of liked it. It was weird. It was different. It was hokey. And then I kind of like how she was used in the Great Lake event. But nowadays, it's like, knock it off. Like, you guys don't get comics if you cheer it. I just don't like it. That fight was fair. Doom was weak. Delicious Hostess pies. There you go. So who would win in a fight with Hostess pies? Oh, I'll tell you who's losing. The person with fruit pies. Because Twinkies and cupcakes are superior in every way to fruit pies. I don't care what Brian Bow says.
Twinkie the Kid.
He didn't lose to Squirrel Girl. He lost to Steve Ditko. Yeah. So why does Daredevil dress as if that's just it? To scare people. You dress like what you're scared of. The same reason.
Right. He's Catholic, so he dresses as the devil. Yeah.
Right. Imagine the shock. Right. From what I know, little of Judge Dredd's technology and weapons, and then I implore you all to consider getting that Mike Gustovich cover on Indiegogo right now. It's such a good cover. Such a good cover. If you made the correct, I think you made the correct but difficult decision. Okay, people are backing me up. I'm the law. Punches Frank in the grenades with the adamantium gloves so hard they land on Mars. I think would they get along? Okay, now let's say for whatever strange reason, Frank Castle and Judge Dredd just happened to be at the Army-Navy store to pick up supplies. Would they get along?
They still have Army-Navy stores?
In my Mega City one, they do.
Okay.
What do you think, Herrenberg? Would they get along, like, philosophically?
No way. Vengeance and the law are two entirely different things.
Good point.
I don't think they would get along. They
I don't
can't
think
get
so
along.
either.
Judge Dredd doesn't get along with anybody.
I think they'd like, hey, what are you buying? Oh, it's a good gun. Blah, blah, blah. Have a little bit of a shop talk, and then he's like, what do? You kill people, and then it would happen. The fight would happen. Judge Dredd is absolute in his beliefs, right?
Yep.
Maybe a crossover Judge. That would be awesome. Has there been a Judge Dredd Punisher crossover comic?
I don't think so. But I don't know for
Just
sure.
for the tech, yeah. Maybe Punisher 2099. Yeah, that's a whole nother character. And I don't know anything about Punisher 2099. That's a whole nother character.
Have there been any Judge Dredd?
What's that?
Have there been any Judge Dredd crossovers? Like,
yeah, he tried to cross over with Batman.
With Batman, right? I think it would be cool if he crossed over with Green Lantern, because basically the Green Lanterns are the cops of the universe. So I don't know. That would be interesting.
Dredd is built like a Wheaties box.
Well, no, you were talking about Judge Dredd's build. They never drew the judges as big, muscular. The most, I think, Ron Wagner and Brian Boland drew them as athletic build.
Yeah.
But like the Mike McMahon and Carlos S, they drew everybody real skinny looking.
Drake's cakes are nothing.
You know,
man, there's nothing better than a cold devil dog and a cup of coffee. So
Drake's Cakes was great. I don't know if you remember, there was a point where you could collect both DC, you could collect Superman movie cards and also Hulk TV show cards at the same time.
They were on the box.
That's
you actually cut them out.
They were
of the box.
inside. Yeah, they were inside. Yeah, that was crazy stuff.
Frank would hate Judge Dredd, and I think Judge Dredd would, after 10 minutes of meeting him, would be trying to kill Frank Castle. You know that he's absolute in his belief system. Doesn't Daredevil have selective hearing? Like there's a page I remember, it was a boy. Yes, Daredevil could tune in. So to answer Heroinberg, I could get real geeky right now.
Yeah.
I play the role-playing game Village Vigilantes with my buddy Kevin over here. And one of the I at one point
Is that like City of Heroes?
What's that?
Is that kind of like City of Heroes or
I don't know. City of Heroes, is it a tabletop role-playing game or
superhero? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a role-playing game.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to I thought the rule book was right over here. But
Village
anyway,
Vigilantes.
it's
That's
a superhero role-playing game. And at one point, I started out all my favorite superheroes. And I started out Punisher, Spider-Man, the X-Men, Fantastic Four. And one of the powers that you have is it's called willpower. And willpower gives you the ability to override all your body's functions. Like you could hold your breath for longer periods of time. You could slow your heartbeat. You could make yourself sweat or make yourself not sweat.
Sure.
In my universe, the Punisher has willpower. You know, the ability to resist torture, the ability to resist showing fatigue and stuff like that. So Daredevil has super hearing. He's listening to his heartbeat. Punisher is controlling his heartbeat. That's how I would justify it in my role-playing games. Why Frank could sit at that table and lie to Matt Murdock. But Marvel is a different animal than my role-playing game.
The Punisher would have such amazing powers of perfect lying that he could control his heartbeat.
Yeah, like he in order to do it, he's like, oh, I'm gonna bleed out, so he could slow his heartbeat so he doesn't bleed out, so he makes it to his way, things like that.
Blank. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, the Punisher did become a black man in the story.
He had surgery to become black.
Yeah, that was the best.
And then the Judge Dredd would take a 12 gauge to the chin. Let's see. Dredd would win because he has more advanced training. Better. See, I don't know if we're talking about just the pure base human versus the pure base human. I can't argue. I would think the Punisher would have an advantage because part of me thinks that Judge Dredd would be too reliant on his technology, whereas Frank Castle's been more reliant on his wits. But I don't know. I don't know enough to say whether that's true or not. What would the Punisher do if they made him a judge? Good question. I can't answer that.
Oh, he would like that.
What do you think, Heroinberg?
I think he would become a rival to Dredd. They would have two different philosophies of law enforcement, and you'd have to see who would win out. So that would kind of be the perfect scenario if he was inducted into the actual judge system and then had to, live by that system. That could be very troublesome for him.
Oh my God, Zach Tan, why don't you work for Marvel? That is a great idea.
Yeah.
That is the best crossover. Oh, wow.
And what if they both had to go after?
That's never going to come out.
What if they both had to go after Judge Death? Like Judge Death was the antagonist in that scenario. You know?
They drafted, or you know what I mean? Like Frank Castle is the judge over at Mega City 3, the city that never really makes it in the stories, Chicago or something.
Wait, is there a Mega City 3? I thought there was just Texas.
I don't
LA,
know. I'm making up stuff. I don't know.
There's Mega City 1 and Mega City 2.
And then there's Texas City also.
That's right.
So I don't think there is one in Chicago. I think Chicago's bombed out, part of the wasteland.
I think that's part of the cursed earth.
Yeah. The mutants, it's a mutant city.
That's right.
Dredd versus RoboCop. Yeah. That's almost like that's almost like a natural. I would love to see that. Judge Dredd versus RoboCop. I could almost see that the movie RoboCop and the Carl Urban Judge Dredd to be in the same universe, just separated by like a century. The judges were all drawn like Archie. My decision is dreadful. Da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. Venom's.
Badum.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Oh, badumps.
Willpower. Yeah. You see, Kevin knows what I'm talking about because me and Kevin played the game. That's the only Punisher issue I own. He went Robert Downey Jr., new Judge Dredd. Judge Castle, right? That would be his name, right?
Yeah.
Judge Castle. Frank would not like to be a judge. The laws are too ridiculously over the top. That begs the question, like, what if, like, right on Earth, like, what if Frank Castle, like, he wouldn't be a cop because.
What if we gender swap Frank Castle with the chick from Castle, the TV show?
The weirdly good-looking girl, like she's weird looking, but she's good looking.
But she's yeah. Stana Katic, I think her name is.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, would he be? But then he could interpret. I don't know. I don't know enough. But part of me thinks that Frank would like flourish as a judge.
Well, because he'd like to put away in his own mind, he is the law. Like he's doing a better job than the law.
I don't know. I'm weirdly fascinated by that now. That is something to explore. Oh, you're getting eaten by cats over there, Marcus?
Yes. I have a cat who likes to nip. I tell him that's how he ended up in the pound.
Herrenberg, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of oddly fascinated by the idea of like somehow, some way, Frank Castle becomes a judge.
Oh, that's a great concept.
Yeah.
I think that's a really great concept.
I mean, that's so great. It could be elevated to a
buy.
movie. It's a movie everybody would watch too.
Right.
They need to get Judge Dredd
That's a
license.
crossover there. Oh man.
Who has the Dredd license?
Chuck Dixon said he wouldn't want to work in mainstream comics. Let's all go. Hey Chuck, what about a story?
That
with
sounds
Frank
like a Chuck. Yeah.
Becomes a judge with Judge Dredd.
Chuck hasn't. You know, you should ask him about that on Ask Chuck.
I will.
We haven't had a John Boo, a John.
I'm trying to get Chuck back on, and that's the first question I'm asking him.
Is he? He wants to come back on. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Part of me is just like Judge Dredd would turn around to Judge Castle and be like, "Dude, calm down. You're killing too many people." Because you said Judge Dredd doesn't really kill as many people.
He doesn't kill that much.
Oh wow! This actually made me like stop talking. The fact that idea. So I guess we're not getting dragged too much in the comments. So I guess
Mike's Total Danger Channel has a comment. That's what I was trying to say early on.
Oh, what did he? Where does it scroll up?
It should be the last comment.
Judge has people getting 20 years for throwing a gum wrapper on.
Right, that's Judge Dredd.
Okay.
Yeah,
like it's over the top punishment.
It's like Singapore on steroids.
Weird beauties are like peanut butter and mayonnaise. Hopefully that's the last punishment. Mega City gets destroyed in the comics.
I don't remember. Judge Dredd doesn't really have continuity as much as Marvel and DC Comics do.
I tell you, the Brits don't care about continuity as much as the Americans do. I go nuts. You know, when I used to watch Doctor Who, I'd be like, that contradicts just the last story. Oh my God, don't they know? Don't they even watch their own stuff? Frank would not like to be a judge. That laws are too, but they are the laws. Like they get to make the laws. So Frank gets to determine that his vengeance is the law. Right? From what you guys tell me.
He could execute somebody for throwing a gum wrapper.
But but I don't, Frank
would be a little over the top for Frank.
Frank would be like, I'm not gonna, it's that to Frank, that wouldn't be against the law.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense to put him in the cubes for 20 years for that or whatever.
I don't know. If you remember Punisher and Daredevil from the comics, Frank thought Daredevil was an actual devil because how he moved and kept up with Frank. Yeah, I don't remember that, but I don't think Frank would think he was an actual devil. I think he'd be like more like a figure of speech. Okay, so who would what's next week? What do you think?
Oh, some person's got a funny little thing at the bottom there.
The Tick versus
I don't know if you heard, but at Baltimore Comic-Con coming up this weekend, I can't go. I tried to get a table, didn't work, but they're honoring Ben Edlund, the creator of The Tick, and a lot of the comic creators are making crossovers. So I've seen Ted Sikora do Tap Dance Killer with the Tick, and also Billy Tucci doing She with the Tick. It's
I
pretty
saw
hilarious.
Tucci's.
Yeah, I saw Tucci's. Both of those were funny. Yeah, I hope to see a lot more of those. Yeah, the crossovers were funny.
The Tick
So
versus.
I guess Ben Edlund will be there, as the guest of honor.
The Tick versus what's the Don Simpson cat? Megaton Man.
Right. I mean, technically, he may or may not be a ripoff of Megaton Man, but
It's funny that you said that. The last I just read Bizarre Heroes number 13, which came out 15 years ago, and there's a little kid who keeps calling him the Tick. I'm not. Megaton Man's like, I'm not the Tick. I came out first. And he's holding up Megaton Man number 1. Because look at the copyright, 5 years before the Tick.
So I think Don Simpson definitely has a little bit of a niggling grudge there about it, but I don't know.
Don Simpson has a lot of niggling grudges.
Yeah, but Don's fine. He's fine.
Oscar's been pushing for this one since I started. Captain Carrot versus Spider Ham. I have a couple of flaming characters.
Hey, you know who wins the fight? Reed Fleming, the
world's he is the
world's strongest milkman, beats everybody.
Archangel versus Hawkman.
What about Reed Fleming? What about Reed Fleming versus Milk and Cheese? his biggest nemesis. Yeah.
Do we anybody have any good ideas for next It's Clobbering Time?
Yeah, I kind of like Tick versus Megaton Man. I don't know how many people.
Yeah, but how many people would?
Yeah, it's a little obscure. Yeah.
I'm thinking of something with the Badger.
The man of molecules.
How about something with the Badger?
Well, okay.
What would be a good
Tom versus Sylvester?
The Badger versus Daredevil. We've had Daredevil before, though.
Yeah.
So we don't really want to do that one. Excuse me.
I'm trying to. Parody Press has some of my favorite spoof characters. How about Spider-Man versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Spider-Man versus the Creeper. The Creeper's not as powerful.
Raphael versus Daredevil. Daredevil versus Wildcat.
I like the Craven one, but I don't. You need somebody better known to go up against Craven.
Who's Spear? I don't even know who Spear is.
I don't want to get too sexy here, but what about Tigra versus Cheetah?
That's a good one.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
That's an even matchup.
Would that make people watch? Let's see.
Well, would it?
How about Craven versus Vixen?
Maybe. Yeah, that's a good one.
Vixen versus Tigra.
Vixen versus Tigra, that's a good one.
Savage
Dragon versus Wolverine.
Vixen would probably win that one, but there you go.
Wonder Woman versus Wonder Man.
Cerberus versus Phone Bone. Now that's a deep cut.
Okay.
I like that. Eric DeGuapo's got an interesting battle of the sexes there.
Yeah, Wonder Woman versus Wonder. We forget that Wonder Man, like around Avengers 175, was a ladies' man. So he would just kiss her hand and she would swoon.
She would punch him because he'd be toxic masculinity.
Isn't he like made of energy or something?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's been made of energy for a long time.
He evolved into like this energy being now.
Yeah. I like that. That was cool. I always liked Wonder Man.
Yeah, I always liked it. I like that they did a logical extent of his power. That's how they said that he came back, because he was converted.
I like that he was a Hollywood actor too. That made a lot of sense.
And he was frustrated because they made him a stuntman. You know, he wanted to be a dramatic actor, but they kept like throwing him out of building because, you know, nothing hurts the guy. He's like, but I don't want to be a stuntman. I want to be an actor.
But he was the unique thing about, Wonder Man might be something we do. The unique thing about Wonder Man, especially when Jim Shooter on it, he was literally afraid to die.
Right.
He didn't get that as a superhero much.
because he thought he knew what it was like to be dead. You know, he thought he was dead. I love that about Wonder Man. I'm still reading the comments over here.
Oh, Zactan's got an interesting one. Kind of
Cyborg versus the Thing. Which one? There was
Cyborg versus the Engineer.
Oh, that's a good one.
I have to read up on the Engineer.
It was supposed to be a movie.
Gru the Wanderer versus Conan. Gru beats anybody. The only person Gru can't beat is Chaktal, right?
That's
the
right.
girl that he has a crush on.
Oh.
How about Elektra verse? Who could Elektra fight from DC?
Yeah, Wonder Woman, Huntress.
Or Black Canary.
Elektra versus Black Canary. How about that?
I mean, Black Canary is supposed to be the premier hand-to-hand combatant in the DC universe, kind of, right? So
yeah, that's recent though. I don't think of her.
Yeah,
like that.
I like
don't
that.
think of her as bad.
Elektra versus Black Canary. How about that? Yeah, there we go.
Somebody, two characters who had like League of Assassins level combat skill. Yeah.
Jim Shooter versus Roy Thomas. I'm sorry, Roy.
Shooter limps now though. He uses a cane.
Black Canary is the, but no speculating now. So all right, we'll try
Elektra
that.
versus Huntress sounds good. Yeah, that sounds great.
Elektra, and I knew you would like it.
I would.
So next week we'll do Elektra versus Black Canary. How's that?
Okay.
All right. Oh, this is a good
about Dino Woman.
Red Tornado versus Machine Man. Keep that one on the back.
Which Elektra and Dino Girl, or Elektra from Daredevil?
Hulk versus Pitt. That's a good one. That's a really good one too.
Oh, Herrenberg, you must remember Elektra and Dino Girl.
That's Elektra Woman, but yeah,
Woman, that's
sure,
right.
Yeah,
you must remember Deirdre Hall.
One of our top 10 influences for sure. Yeah, and I remember the aborted reboot in 2000.
Oh yeah,
and also the terrible YouTuber reboot in 2016 with.
I don't remember the YouTube reboot.
Yeah, it's around.
I remember all that stuff.
It's not. It wasn't a YouTube reboot. It was a YouTuber reboot. They literally used two actresses who were YouTube stars at the time as the characters, and one of whom was not attractive at all, shall we say. The other one was fine.
Elektra Woman. I remember that when I was a kid. Deirdre Hall.
Right, so next week we'll do Black Canary versus Elektra, and this was a lot of fun. I 2 hours. I'm always conscious because 4 days from now nobody clicks on a 2-hour stream.
I do. But I drive 2-3 hours. I've had a 3-hour drive today.
Matter Eagle versus the hostess Twinkie Cowboy. Yeah, Matter Eagle versus Twinkie the Kid. We all know that fight's over in 8 seconds. Have we done Quicksilver versus the Flash yet? No, we haven't.
But you did Quicksilver. You did the Flash and the Hulk was your first one that I missed.
That's because the kid
which was like unique.
So the Wizard, the Wizard is a lot slower than them, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right,
well, the Quicksilver's a lot slower than the Flash.
Johnny Quick, did you say?
Oh, I'm gonna end this now. I think this is a lot of fun, guys. As always, the comments are awesome. Thank you, Karenberg. Thank you, Marcus.
No problem.
And as always,
thank you, John.
It's an open invite. Anybody can come in.
Thanks, John.
So next week we'll do Black Canary versus Elektra.
Sounds good.
I don't know. I could go either way. Not as I'm thinking about it. So I spend a week daydreaming about it. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Yeah.